If you've been following what's been happening in the health and wellness space, what a time to be alive. When questions of dying are no longer inevitable, but perhaps an option. When doctors are not just talking about curing diseases, but they're talking about how to keep you disease-free. At a time when world leaders are caught on camera saying, well, 70 is just a baby. They're perhaps going to live forever. So in times like these, how do we look at longevity? Perhaps the most Googled word these days. How do we interpret it in the Indian context? And perhaps in the common man context as well. I couldn't have thought of a better person to actually discuss this with. Dr. Avi Roy is a biomedical scientist, entrepreneur and co-founder of Founders Health. He's chaired conferences with Nobel laureates, built AI-driven longevity solutions, and is perhaps, if I can dare to say, our very own version of Brian Johnson, if you know what I'm saying. If not, then let me tell you that he is the one who's going to tell us about the very frontiers of understanding how exactly to extend life and extend the quality of life as well. So let me just take it straight in with you, Dr. Roy. Is immortality a reality now?
Thank you, Sonal, and thank you for India Today for inviting me here, and thank you everyone for staying for this talk rather than going out and chilling. Before I begin, I just want to congratulate you on the last panel. That was fantastic. And also, it's an intro to what I am and what I'm not. And it's very confusing for people to distinguish between doctor and doctor. One is a medical doctor, the other is a scientist. We design the drugs that doctors use. Biomedical scientists, biochemists come up with solutions, hopefully solutions. Failure rate is about 95% to 99%. But once it's available, then doctors can prescribe it, use it in their tool of arsenals that they can use. So, the reason why I'm telling you is that GLP-1 that you heard is just the tipping point in the vision that I want to discuss right now with you. It was discussed as a panacea in the last panel, and us scientists, what we call ourselves biogerontologists, the people who are researching how to slow down the rate of aging and maybe even reverse it, for us, that is just the tip of the spear, and we are thinking way beyond that, and that is just the beginning. So, immortality. I don't think any real relevant scientist is thinking of immortality, but we are thinking of negligible senescence, or think of it as amortality. There are animals...
Amortality.
That's right. So you will still be able to be killed off. You're not a vampire or a movie show or an art, a storybook villain. What you are is more like a bowhead whale instead of a field mouse. A field mouse, rarely can you find a field mouse older than 6 months. And a bowhead whale can live 300 years, maybe even more. We don't know. We killed the one from which we actually dated how old she is. So we don't actually really know. And that's just in the mammalian kingdom. If we go to animal kingdom, it is insanely long. So they have slower rate of aging. They defy things that come with aging, like cancer. And we are trying to ascertain how we can do that to ourselves.
Okay, that's a lot to process, but let me try and understand this. You've talked about aging as an engineering problem. How can you make sense of that a little bit? And I ask you this in the India context. In India, where our sadhus and rishis, etc., have been living for 90 plus years without any medical intervention, and the same India where 30-year-olds are getting heart attack. In an India with that sort of complexity, what does engineering aging mean?
So again, I'll start with the first question, which is, what do we mean by engineering aging? What I'm saying with that is that for 99% of our existence, 40% of children died before their 5th birthday. That was about 100 years ago. That was still happening in England and Wales. 1921 census shows for the first time that that wasn't happening. In India, it took until 1985 to achieve any significant movement about that. And you know how we did that? Engineering solutions. We sent a software code, known as vaccine, that updated the immune system to fight against childhood viruses and bacterial infections. That is an upgrade to the software. Now, we did that with children. Everybody is completely sanguine with it because it is a part of our life that we grew up with. So that doesn't seem like a miracle anymore, but it is. Somebody should tell RFK Jr., but politics aside. But the thing is, what we want to now do is that do we have to age at this rate? Our last speaker pointed out the Indian thin fatness. That is a genetically programmed switch. Everybody here knows the difference between a Labrador and a Great Dane. The twain are not the same. So can we actually convert a Labrador to age more like a whale? Similarly, what with us? So in our gerontology science, we have recognized 13 processes. They're called the 13 hallmarks of aging, which involve things like telomere attrition, protein accumulation, as in garbage clearance, communication breakdown between cells, and more. 13 different distinct processes that go awry in cells as we get older, some due to stochasticity, some due to genetic predisposition, like the fat accumulation. But either way, there are these 13 processes that we have cataloged. If we can target and reverse them, you possibly could be either coming back to your 30s or stay in your 30s for hundreds of years, according to Mars experiments.
Has this been proven on any human just yet?
Not at all. It has only been done in flies, worms, killifish, mice, and rats. Dog experiments have just begun, but yes, no.
So how far away are we? And why is then the most powerful men in the world saying that 70 is just a baby, 150 is what we're going to live with?
Well, see, to answer the how far away question, the first thing that you have to remember from my talk is that I am not saying that we should be breaking any laws of physics and chemistry. This is possible in just the mammalian kingdom. So how fast can we achieve AGI? Do you know how much investment is going every day into achieving AGI? It's absolutely incredible. Whereas in healthcare, we're still stuck on whether we should prescribe GLPs or not. So there is no real momentum. There is like 15 scientists, it's not 15, but maybe like around 500 scientists around the world that are trying to actually do this even. And there is very little money compared to what you think. Most of the money in longevity goes into selling supplements. In this stage, I'm not selling you anything. I have no companies to sell, no supplements to sell, and nothing to sell to you. So that is the thing. How fast can we go? Well, as fast as you want. It's the story that we tell ourselves.
So the buzzword these days is personalized medication. India is thriving in this sector. There are so many startups now who are working on it, personalized gut care, personalized heart care. And that's been seen as something that can happen now. What does personalized medication mean really day to day?
Well, we were talking about this before. India has a fantastic opportunity. Where I live in the NHS in the UK, they have birth to death records of everybody. So nearly 70 million plus birth to death records. What that means is that a man who was prescribed a different version of statin in Aberdeen versus a different statin, a similar man of socioeconomic and other types in London getting a different statin and then living out his life course, we now know one of those two statin has a longevity impact. As in, not only did that other person or group of people live longer, but they lived longer better.
That's where AI gets in, right?
Yeah, I mean, you don't need AI for this, but yes, when you increase the scale to the, we were talking about the Aadhaar card in India, where you can digitally track healthcare of 740 million people, you can do in silico randomized controlled trials. You can randomly sort people getting the same class of drug, but this version versus that version, or run a whole bunch of ethically designed experiments in order to ascertain what is working. And that will actually accelerate that. Now, the personalization part also is exactly from that. We would know that a person who has this deficiency or that genotype should be actually given this category of medicine rather than that one. This is all coming from data, and India can be absolutely an amazing data trove for this.
Got it. I have one more nerdy question to ask before I move on to stuff that people get really excited about. We hear a lot about gene therapies, telomeres, that's how you say it, yeah. What is the difference between the hype that we see on these versus where we are in terms of pragmatic sort of solutions on the ground?
Again, I would go back to the point that I was trying to say. In the field, there is a consensus that there are 13 things going wrong. Telomeres is one of them. And again, you have lots of different cell types. Cells that regenerate within 24 hours, cells of the epithelium, your gut lining, things like that. Then you have your neurons that live for 10 to 20 years. They don't have the same problems. Neurons have the problem of garbage disposal. Proteins accumulate in them, and that doesn't get disposed. Their telomeres are fine. Telomeres are little end caps of your shoelaces. Think of them as that. It has always been described as that. It's a useful metaphor to have. And every time the cell divides, that end cap of the shoelace gets smaller, and then the shoelace can fray. Your chromosomes can fray. But that is really mainly a problem of fast dividing cells. And also, we don't really have a fix for that yet. We have a technical fix, but we haven't actually tested it out completely in humans. My previous biotech company is one of the companies that is testing it out for early stage dementia, but it's not for telomere attrition per se. It's giving immune cells an oomph in order to fight the accumulated junk in the brain.
This is very exciting but very complex for people to understand. So let me put you on an easy question now. For somebody who understands it better than most of us, what is your longevity routine like? What are you doing, I want to know.
Wow. Okay, that's you should always take your own medicine. So I have to be 100% honest and completely point out that I take GLP-1s. I don't want to name names, but absolutely. When we started researching and finding out that some of the effects that we are seeing, the pleiotropic, the beneficial effects of GLP-1s is not only due to fat loss. And the clinical trial data is out there. By the way, whenever you guys go see your doctors, one question that you should definitely ask is every year 1 million to 3 million biomedical science and clinical research papers are published. How many have you read before they ascertain you? Like this is a good question. And also be evidence-based. Always look at your health, and this is answering your question, like you're looking at your portfolio. Have markers that relate to endpoints. So the endpoint is that you want to have 5 million when you're 60 years old, okay? So in health, the endpoint would be, I do not want to have a cardiac arrest like my dad did in 55. Okay, I'm 30 now. What are the markers that are causally related to that? Causally. You can sit with your cardiologist, your endocrinologist, everybody, and determine what those markers are, and then implement plans that your markers are always below that threshold. That is what you do with your finance. Please do that with your health, because that's far more important. So in doing that, what I try to do is the first things first, which is health and nutrition. Try to have the best VO2 max, which is the extraction of as much aerobic capacity that you have. Try to have muscle mass, and then try to have the best nutrition that you possibly can. And if you need to, due to genetics, autoimmune disease is something that I have, complement it with medicine, then so be it, under the care and guidance and supervision of your medical team.
So we were just doing the GLP-1 discussion before this, and strictly in India, it's only prescribed for diabetes and weight loss. But you are taking it for longevity. I'm very curious to know what changes. I'm sure you're tracking your personal data. What changes have you seen?
Yeah, as I said, I've been taking it for 26 months now. And I have an autoimmune disease as well. And again, the GLP-1 data shows that it is relatively effective whilst being benign for autoimmune diseases, for lowering the levels of inflammation and so forth. So for me, it has been beneficial, not necessarily so much for weight loss. But let me tell you something. I gave you the Labrador versus Great Dane example, but think about Labrador versus, I don't know, Border Collie. Everybody has seen a Border Collie here, maybe. They're obsessive. They have a neurotic obsession, whereas anybody who has hung out with Labradors knows that they're food motivated. GLP-1s are doing something very strange. Like the last person was saying, literally after 2 weeks of taking it, there was no food noise.
He actually said after 3 days.
Yeah. Well, okay. So there's literally no food noise. You can actually do other things with your life. And for me, that is more than enough. Even if the drug is a pair of glasses on the inside that helps you see better, think better, that's good enough. But we obviously, because it's me, we are tracking all the markers. And again, it's with medical supervision. I just happen to have a team of 8 doctors that are part of my team. So that's helpful for me. But again, if you're going to embark on this journey, remember, this is the 21st century. This is post-enlightenment. As in, you can read the Latin Bible. Don't let anybody tell you that you can't. ChatGPT, in its last presentation, spent nearly 14 minutes out of its like 40 minutes talking about healthcare. Break it down for yourself, get multiple doctors, but you can read Latin now. So you need to devise what your health plan is, what you don't want to be like when you're in your 50s, 60s, and 70s, and you need to step on it. So I did that for myself with GLPs, and doctors are my consultants. They are my guide for the road that I want to take on, but make sure that you know that you are in the lead.
You are saying that in today's time and age, if I fall sick, if I get a serious disease, if I as much as die, it's on me. Because I'm not doing the right checkup. I'm not doing the right checks. Is that what you're saying?
No, but now I know that I'm in an India Today conference, because that's a hyper extension of what you have just taken.
No, that's what you're saying. You're saying it's you got to do all the study. You're saying you got to figure out everything.
No,
I want to talk about the mental cost of it.
Yeah.
There is an ethical debate on longevity, and it worries me. How much of science, how much of human race are we really reversing? At what cost and what for?
I completely understand. And this is the reason why I invoked enlightenment. Martin Luther King Jr. in Germany, he started publishing the Bible in English for the first time, and the language and they hung him for it. What I'm saying is not necessarily you orchestrate your entire healthcare. I'm saying that you don't need to be just tagging along. You don't need to listen to the priest on the pulpit and you can be. Most of us want to participate. This is the only material that you have for your friends and your family as well. As in, this is the most important thing. If it is not important to you, you can obviously go back to basic. As in, like, just let somebody else run your body. What I'm trying to say is that I hope that the people are sitting here and thinking about it, but today you have empowerment. You not only have the Library of Alexandria on your phone, but you have a guide and a teacher, multiple versions of them, who can help you. Now, if you don't want it, that's perfectly fine. But the idea, it has to come from you. So in London and in the US and in Singapore, when we have clients come over, we don't go to them. They come to us. So they have an idea that they want to accomplish. So again, it is incumbent upon each person to their extent when they want it in their life. Again, this is not enforced on anybody.
So you're wearing a couple of devices, I see. There's one on your ring, that's probably your tracker. The watch is there. I see another one on your shirt that's tracking other stuff as well. That's what I'm getting to. How much of tracking every step, every breath, every loo break, every bite of food that you take, don't you think there's a downside to that as well?
Absolutely. By the way,
It's an obsession at the end of the day.
100%. This is the kind of gravelly middle. So in Oxford, where I did my PhD, those of you who know John Radcliffe Hospital is on a hill. Because the idea, the notion was TB was caused by miasma. I'm getting to a point. So hospitals used to be built on high hilltops so that you could get good quality air. This is the bumpy road. The wearables, the fitness trackers, the GLPs, this is the bumpy road to what I told you guys. As scientists, we are dreaming. One day, and this has already happened with some cancers, like cervical cancer, you will have a vaccine that you will take in your teenage years, HPV, and then cervical cancer will disappear from your population. That is what we are working towards. Nobody will need this crap. Nobody will need to track those who don't want to track. People who want to track, they can track themselves. But we are not there yet. We are still in the hard science part where we're doing piecemeal solution. GLP here, PCSK9 inhibitor there, PDE5 inhibitor over there. These are all drug classes that are being tested out for their pleiotropic benefits instead of just the targeted benefits that they have for which they were prescribed for.
Got it. I have an India-specific question for you. We live in the land of Ayurveda. We live in the land where we've had a lot of traditional knowledge about how to live the good way of life, how to think. Do you think with all the scientific advancements that we have seen, there is a place where our traditional concepts and modern science converge? Do you think there's a point where they meet today?
I'm not a scholar on any of those things, except that I was born here and I lived here until I went away for studies. But I think India, amongst most cultures, I mean, America thinks it's a melting pot, but if you look at the latest genomics paper from India, or Nature, just Google Nature Genetics, India Genomics, we have been a physical melting pot. Everything, and from the breadbasket of the world to everything has come and gone through India and passed through it. We have never been a hidden kingdom. We have been open to ideas, open to people, open to everything. So I find that the greatest strength of India is how easily it amalgamates with everything, whether it be 5,000-year-old Ayurvedic traditions or what's coming down the line with ChatGPTs or AGIs or whatever. I personally think, having traveled the world, been in other parts of the world, we sometimes may seem exclusive to us, but we are not. I think we are the most melting pot of cultures that possibly can be. I think India can amalgamate, incorporate, and utilize and scale the future like no other place in the world.
Okay, let me, on a lighter note, ask you to share, since you know so much more, some longevity hacks with our audience. Do you have some? On what do you think are some basics that we as South Asian, subcontinent, Indian body type should be doing?
I think, sadly, it remains the same. So if everybody here could get their VO2 max tested, or at least wear any of the wearables that claim to get their VO2 max, that would be great. Every 1 point increase in your METs, your metabolic expendable energy, will get you 11 to 16% decrease in all-cause mortality, as in death from any cause.
So exercise.
Yeah. I mean, aerobic exercise, and then followed by strength, grip strength. For every kilogram increase in grip strength alone, you see reduction in all-cause mortality. I know this is sounding very benign.
This is basic stuff. I was expecting hacks here. Come on.
I know, but
So you're going to tell me, okay, it's going to boil down to what Ayurveda has been telling us for too long. Don't take stress, sleep well, eat well, speak well. I think, are you saying it's all boiling down to the same thing?
No, it's not. It's not. But the thing is that I got to be responsible when I'm on stage. Privately come and find me, and or just go to my Twitter profile. I'm just kidding. The hacks really are, honestly, if I can give you one hack, it is tracking. You will find simple tracking, like just one-time measurement of your blood values. Just once you have that unit and you see how close you are to your dad or your dad's dad or whatever it is, and you can see, and you can just take that data, put it into Claude, ChatGPT, Grok, whatever your AI of choice, or all of them, and it'll flag it up. Once you see that red marker, you're like, okay, what do I do? From there, the shortcuts are different. And this is why I don't want to advise and like one panacea for all, because then I would be selling you supplements or selling you medicine or whatever. And I'm not an influencer. So because my 78-year-old dad will have a very different protocol than you. So the thing is that once you get those numbers, once you have it in front of you, you have, you know, what are you going to do? It's exactly like your bank balance. Currently, you're flying completely blind if you don't have that.
All right, you know what they say, in the end we all die. But here is Mr. Roy who's saying, you don't have to if you don't want to. He's saying, track it if you like it. He's also saying that today there are tools available that can let you imagine that life. And that's why I started the session by saying, what a time to be alive. So thank you, Dr. Roy, for coming here and sharing all those pearls of wisdom. This is quite exciting. Thank you so much.